Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. This is the vault, episode 646. Name your trust after you. Definitely thankful for everybody that listens in live, listens in the replay. Hit the like and the subscribe button, or hit the subscribe button so you can actually get the notifications, because we definitely do pop up episodes and you want to get the live so you can type in questions into the chat and we can answer those questions. So, this episode 646, Name Your Trust After You, was inspired by trustees and people of the like that have came through and they're operating through an entity that's named after themselves. So, since things are named after themselves, sometimes it can be challenging to clarify who's separated and who's not. Is it yours? Is it your trust? Isn't that how people speak of it in this sector sometimes? This is the difference between public and private. Public people own things, private people, they trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. That's what they do. So when we talk about naming your trust after you, of course, people come at us all the time with the government name stuff. There's a government name. There are communities that believe that there's a such thing called a government name. And then they say, "Oh, well, it's a trust and it's a cesticate," and but then they say it's they operate with that one, and then they go open up another trust, and it's got their name on it again. So when are they gonna get away from using their name? Oh, Trust Christian, it's the all caps name. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all can't play this game with wealthy people, okay? So wealthy people are very aware they can write the company name in upper and lowercase. Why? Because it is a fiction. That's why they can put it upper and lowercase, because it is a fiction. Just like you say, or people say, their name on a piece of paper is a fiction. And so when people say, "Oh, the name is a fiction," and but why are they going back and forth in commerce? Oh, Trust Christian, my signature is the reason why they have any credit, but you going back and forth in commerce. You, with your signature. But they don't want to have this conversation because they're not accountable for their signatures sometimes. Not accountable for what they not standing on business. They standing on personal. Because they in their emotions and they upset about the fact that they gotta work, trade time for money until people are in positions to have money work for them. And really money can work for you based off of your thought process. Your thought process. We got people coming to us. Here we go. We'll give you an example. Oh, Trust Christian, I'm gonna become accredited investor by getting my Series 7 license. It's not legal advice or financial advice. They say, "Oh, Trust Christian Vault, we're we're gonna do get go become a accredited investor." Uh, okay, but you don't have the money, do you? Do you have the 250,000 cash flow every year? Do you have a million? Like, we can introduce you to securities agents. That's what they're going to ask you if you're a credit investor. That's what the old standing used to be. The new standing, if somebody wants to operate in, "Oh, I'm operating from a position of Series 7, that's excellent. Uh, okay. So people, "Oh, I'm going to name my family trust after this. I'm going to name this trust after myself." If it's not tax exempt, then what are we talking about? It's a for profit because that's what people call it. And then it's not it's not a separation. It's just, hey, here's the name. People can go search it if it owns property. That's what they want to do. You want to keep your name available so people can go search it in property. Naming your trust after you is like the quagmire of trustees coming to us saying, "Trust Christian, it's taking us a long time to transfer these assets out of our name into a trust," which is a minute. Which is maybe going to a DMV for a record, maybe the county record for property doesn't mean it's public, but people are filing, they're claiming. Who's claiming ownership of the property now? Is it your trust name? You know, because people keep saying it's their trust. That's how we know they're not private. Because when you go in private rooms, it's a real simple way to identify the newbies, the old money, new money, everything in the in everything in between. It's easy to identify that, ladies and gentlemen. I promise you. And we dress the part, but we know that any environment is very cut, dry. No one's going to name a business after themselves. We even sat in a room recently with wealthy individuals said, "You don't even want to name the business after a family member." And it was like, really? Now, granted, we're talking, you know, charity or family stuff or charity, then it's a little different. The cause may feel different, but even in, think about it. If you're going to get emotional about a family member in a charitable sense and wanting to, give in the capacity of their name or otherwise, that's an emotional thing. That's a passionate thing. When we come back to the public side, though, when we talk about it from business trustee perspective, you're exposing things now. You're supposed to be private. You're supposed to be the trustee. Are you the beneficiary or the trustee? We get on a line with trustees all the time, or people that reach out to us. Oh, am I the beneficiary? Am I the grantor? Am I the trustee? What position are you in? Many trustees reach out, and or people reach out. We ask some very specific questions. Who created it? I'm okay with doing it public trust, Christian. We know you are. Because we remember when we first got in private trusteeship, and our business partner at the time said he was going to do the contract. And how can you come up with something if you're not a sophisticated lawyer? They have trust documents at the public law library. So it's not like you can't go get a public trust document at the law library. You don't need a lawyer if you go to the law library because you can get the document, fill in the blanks, and then get them to look over it. That's a public one. So then are they charging you for the document or are they charging you for expertise of making sure that it's a solid contract? So then you say, okay, what about a private one? Now, that is an interesting question. Where do you go to find the private trust documents? Trust Christian, is it that difficult? Ladies and gentlemen, it's private for a reason. It's not even a question. It's one of those things where if you say it's a barrier to entry, sure. Do you have to know the right people? Sure. Do you have to be in the right place? Sometimes at the right time? Sure. A lot of those things come into play. A lot of those things. Because people in our sector know we don't name things after ourselves. That already might have a tacit implication that you own it. Oh no, Trust Christian, I don't. I told him at the bank I was the trustee. So then who's the beneficiary? Crickets. Because you got it named after you. Who's the beneficiary? My children, Trust Christian. If all you thought I was going, I did. I knew I had to put my kids because if I put myself, I'm gonna be taxable, right? So you put your kids as taxable, right? Interesting positions that people take when they don't have the proper information. And once again, we're gonna harp on, well, we had a trustee. It ain't even a trustee. This individual thinks they're going to learn the words without the doing. You don't learn the words without the doing. Anybody could read a definition in a dictionary. The doing is where you learn. That's how it happens. It's the same. Think about this. They come to the vault. They say, oh, I got a Sesta K trust from the government. The government gave me a trust. It's called the Social Security number, and I got that, and I don't even want it. Right. So are you going to go get into a vehicle immediately that you know is your freedom vehicle? But we remember one of our mentors saying this, and we'll never forget it. Said, Trust Christian, freedom isn't free. Hard statement, for the average individual to grasp. The cost of poverty was nothing. The cost of somebody telling you what time to eat, telling you what education you got to get, how much did that cost? It was free information. Everybody said get an education, right? Right. Everybody said get a mortgage, right? Right. Everybody told you to own everything, right? Right. So when we get to this point where we step out, it's interesting because this is actually how you know you're there. When you think about your freedom all the time, even though you may be currently in a circumstance of what you perceive as a tough situation, if you can really see that vision, it's there for you. And it's going to cost, but it's there for you. It's interesting, we were thinking about, okay, here we go. We'll get trustees enroll in the program. They say, oh, trust Christian and vote. Why not name it after yourself? Because think about it. If you fail on the first trustee situation for yourself, why would you name it after yourself? What you gonna name the second one? X, Y, and Z2, X, Y, and Z3, X, Y, and Z4 if you fail a few times? See, that's another thing. We sit around wealthy individuals. Wealthy individuals fail a lot. That was something that rang in our head in the past 24 hours so much. Is that wealthy people, yes, they've had botched trusts. First of all, people, see, here we go. If you're going to name the trust after yourself, that's not the one you're going to be operating with, doing business. Simple as that. We come in contact with people that have over 50 trust, that have over 100 trust. That's how real it is in the private sector, ladies and gentlemen. What are we talking about here? Oh, trust Christian Vault. I named it after myself because I'm going to get my get back on the government and I'm going to get my discharge and we're going to clear the debt. But okay, we just mentioned to you, sure, say a wealthy individual knows to do that process. So now their quote unquote government name is at a flat zero. It's clear. No debt. Sit around wealthy individuals tell you, yeah, but we also have 15 businesses that failed in our lifetime. We had 19 businesses that failed in our lifetime. Multiple businesses that have failed, multiple trusts that have failed in their lifetime. And are way more wealthier than the average individual. We're talking real centimillionaires now. What is the difference? Sure, if you want to take a risk on your name right away, go ahead. Isn't that what the public lawyers tell people? Oh yeah, put it in a living trust. It's in your name. So when someone's coming to rob you and sue you and steal from you, what are they gonna do? They're gonna go look up your name and they just put trust at the end. That was smart. No. Once again, it's like, oh, we're gonna have a record, county record with our name on it with the property in it. That's the closest we're gonna get to asset protection? Is your name in a trust? Or the name of the trust? Nah, they don't want to talk about that trust Christian and Vault. We could talk to these lawyers all day, trust Christian and Vault. Oh, trust Christian and Vault, they said, the lawyers said, that you don't really need all of those trusts. 19 trusts, that sounds like a lot. They must have had a lot of money. Okay. We got trustees that have 3, 4 properties, 5 properties, 6 properties, 8 properties, 50 property portfolios. People that have businesses that make over $500,000, that make over $1,000,000 a year. They have assets that they're looking to protect. They understand what separating is going to do. They see the benefit of asset protection. They see the benefit of not naming it after themselves. Something simple. Something simple. They understand that they can always go back later. Why? Because we work with them. It's not going to be the only one that you ever manage in your life. Most of our trustees start out in a multiple set and multiple scenarios anyways. It's the natural thing to do. You almost want to say, unless someone really had a huge portfolio and they really just wanted to hold and not really grow, then sure, one is fine. But if someone's looking to grow, there may be a need for multiple, maybe a need for separation. So many different reasons, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I'm gonna name my trust after my children. Is that where we about to go now? Name it after your children. I'm gonna name it after my grandparents. So if somebody go do a public search on my grandparents' name, and then they see my name, because my last name's attached to their last name, because I'm the trustee. Maybe they can go do a search on my name now. Do I have assets in my name? Oh no, I put them in that trust. Oh, looks pretty predictable. Trust Christian is a different perspective, because I didn't think about that yet. That's all. We've been doing it long enough, been working with trustees long enough to know your parents' name. The only one we say is the only entity that we say is for that purpose would be something that's tax exempt, something that's, you know, in a charitable environment, possibly. So you understand that perspective. The base of the entity is already tax exempt. So whereas you look at a lot of the for-profit entities, that's why a lot of the savvy entrepreneurs never name a business after themselves or their family. It's just kind of, they cater to their demo, they cater to their market. Even if the trust is going to be in a real estate position, then you know what type of names to give it. If you know it's going to be in, certain type of business management positions, then you know what type of entity. You go do searches on entities that have that trust name, but they're business management entities. So it just varies on how you would go about naming various different entities. People ask about this all the time. What's the name, or how do I come up with a name? And really, it's just should be catered more towards the purpose of the entity. So if it is family, then it's like, oh, X, Y, and Z family. Like, oh, okay, well, we know now. If it holds property on the county record, we know now that that family's holding that property, who's associated with that family. Sometimes, if you guys are really going to move into that position where, let's just say, your family, you guys are going to go into trusteeship together as a family. Okay, people don't want to hear this. They got to get off social media. Why? Ladies and gentlemen, if y'all think the Waltons, who they have literally 3 to 4 of their family members, just on namesake alone, they divided the wealth of 4 family members, are still in the top richest families in the world. These families do not have these social platforms. The more wealth you have, the less social platform you have. You don't want things to get misconstrued. You don't want things to, you're in the asset protection phase now of the life in the family estate and the family name. You're in the asset protection. You're an asset. What's the benefit of you going out and showing out or speaking out? You're speaking always on behalf of the family estate. If that's the case, are people dressing the family estate part? Are they speaking the family estate language? Are they thinking about the family estate, their freedom all the time? These can be challenges for people that have been programmed. We are in the era of cell phone. People are probably listening to this through their cell phone. And for that reason, people are attached to the cell phone. So the education, how do you get the education? A lot of it comes from meeting people one on one. We remember these were the glory days for Trust Christian. Uh, for over a year, we met with a mentor at least once or twice a month at various different restaurants in that local area. We were in that area, meet them for an hour, and we're just gonna go ahead and give y'all the harsh reality because we got trustees that listen, but they don't really know what the upper room looks like. This is what the upper room looks like. The conversations. So this mentor, very sophisticated mentor, international trustee, has traveled the world, has been in trusteeship for over 30 years, still managing family estates right now. Just a, upstanding guy in business. He said, Trust Christian, just want to let you know, this is our first meeting. Well, this is actually after our first. This is our first one-on-one, actually, though, because I met him. Trust Christian met him through a mutual trustee, actually. He says, Trust Christian, if you don't bring your wallet and pay for every meal every time, that will be the last time we meet. We never forgot that conversation because it made such an impact on us that some people may take that as harsh or whatever they call it in the public world. But in the private world, it lets you know somebody's time is not to be taken lightly and to value it and take it seriously. The fact that you're not paying thousands of dollars to sit next to an international trustee, and then for literally, he would just say, "Oh, Trust Christian, just send over your questions in advance," and that's a big telltale sign too. Did you send over your questions in advance? So we would send over questions in advance, and we would meet with that specific mentor, and we would always make sure we had our wallet on us. And it's very important, ladies and gentlemen, to pay attention to those details when we're engaging with individuals in these environments. When you talk about, oh, I'm in trusteeship, when you got to learn from somebody privately, when you got to learn from somebody that's been doing it for 30 years, how do you humble yourself to say, okay, I got to make sure I'm prepared, not over prepared, just prepared actually. You can't be over prepared for a meeting where he just said just bring the wallet, make sure you can pay for the meal. You pay for the meal, you were prepared. If you, it's no over prepared. See, people think, oh, I'm over this, I'm over that, I'm overthinking, I'm over prepared. You're not over anything. Did you do it or not do it? That's as simple as that. And we would sit there, and senior trustee would let you know for sure. Definitely multiple, you don't name trust after yourself. But in the public, they were trained to own everything. So they gonna name the trust after themselves. They got the public attorneys telling them to name the living trust after themselves. Even if they don't. What are they telling you to name it after? Your family? Which is your last name, which is identifiable. It's Googleable. Right? These are things that people can do public searches on, and it's challenging because people, if you're going to be private, then it's just family estate in the public. It's interesting because we've actually seen quite a few families. They literally do what we're talking about. They just go put out the family name on a social platform, and they pretty much use that as a business entity that they operate out of. We had someone kind of talking about some tribal stuff the other day. Like, there's nothing wrong with that type of thought process. It's just, ladies and gentlemen, most of y'all have nuclear families. Most of y'all are doing one-on-ones or nuclear families. We get the consultations. We got families that have multiple families in trusteeship. They have mom, sons, daughters. We got moms, daughters, sons. We got three generations in a lot of settings right now. A lot of consultations, ladies and gentlemen. Did they name it after themselves? No. But they may have named the foundation after a family member. And once again, that's up in the air. We could say it's almost 50-50 at the vault where families come through. For the most part, it's more skewed to, yeah, it's varies because the foundation for sure, a lot of families are going to use their name or family last name, whereas in regular trusteeship, most of the time it's for asset protection. How you gonna protect something you out here using your so-called government name, as certain people like to call it, the government name? And why do people keep operating in the government name if it's the government's name? Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listen, replay. Always appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listen, replay. Feel free to type into the chat questions y'all got for our private mentor. We actually going to do an episode with him. We still haven't done it yet, but we definitely going to do it. We actually have questions lined up from the previous episode that we did, and we have questions that we're going to line up from this one. So when we say, what questions do you have? Think about it. The question that we have right here, we could literally ask the mentor, hey, should you name the trust after yourself? And he's going to give us wise advice for sure. So once again, but this is a different mentor we're going to bring out. This mentor that we're bringing out has families been in law for over 50 plus years, almost maybe 70. And they're very astute. International tribal trustees, very familiar with jurisdictions, very familiar with a lot of processes and procedures. Their dad was a judge, so it kind of says a lot. So once again, we do our best to bring private relationships. Now, Trust Christian, you bringing us an attorney? No. You can Google attorney, right? You can Google a public trust attorney, right? Right. How do you find private people? Well, Trust Christian involved, we keep our ear to the street. We're in the private, so we're easily connected to private relationships. People that are on the private side. And the reason why is because people in trust deal with people in trust. We tell y'all that all the time. But people in trust, they know when somebody's in trust just off their speech alone. So how are you going to avoid the training if you don't have the speech? You enroll in trustee training so you can learn how to speak properly about private trusteeship. So you can have that one-on-one conversation weekly to have that conversation for trusteeship. People say, oh, they literally, here we go. Trustee comes on the line the other day, says, Trust Christian. Can a trust pay for a ransom for the trustee? Now, here we go. It's only one answer, but for some odd reason, people don't remember their notes. People got to study their notes. This is your notes. There's no debate. Here you go. It's only one answer. They say, oh, Trust Christian, it could be many answers. And we're going to give you the one that answers it all. Well, can the trust or a trust? This is what trustee asks. Trustee says, can a trust pay for a ransom for the trustee? Well, answer. A trust is a person. A trust can do everything me and you can do if we were in commerce, except for a vote and an election. See how simple it is? That's trustee training. But they heard that answer. They know they have to remember the principles. That's the principle. That's the foundational principle you stand on. That's what you know to do and not to do. Oh, okay. What can it do? What can it not do? It's only, there you go. Buy, sell, hold, lease. It makes payments for entities or businesses. It's no, oh, give me the answer, long way about it. It's very simple and to the point. That's trusteeship, ladies and gentlemen. Feel free to enroll Christian at trustchristian.com. If you want to be in trustee training, get the one-on-one training. Christian at trustchristian.com. We'll do a consultation. It'll be a 15-minute discovery call. And looking forward to connecting with you. We have quite a few families right now. We started out the year really successful with a bunch of families. Once again, multiple generations, ladies and gentlemen. Families holding acres of land. And it is more than 25. It's more than 50. So are you going to pass along the estate down with your children's name? So your family name can be on public record? We were looking at this the other day. Actually, there was this story about Michael Jackson. Somebody found some lost tapes of his, and they basically are still going to take them to auction, but they actually found tapes. Very interesting. So when they took him to the Jackson estate basically shunned him away, said, "We're not giving you anything." And the people, they were wondering, almost like a little upset, like, how could they say this to us? We could release this and make a ton of money. And the people at that estate laughed at him and they said, we already got the masters in a trust in the vault. That's what they said. This is public record. That's what the estate said when you properly write. They said, we got the masters. We have what you call, whether you want to call it IP, intellectual property, we have the copyright. It's in private trust. You guys can beat it. And interesting, this is going to be an interesting play, because if they sell it in an incorrect manner, this family estate, if these people make a certain amount of money off these tapes, because they are unreleased songs, they are unreleased conversations with him and a producer. So it's interesting, because if these things are released, can the family estate still sue? They actually are going to sue if they were, for name, image, and likeness. They could say, well, you got the sound of our estate and we own you, just like that. And you're out of there. And they're going to bury you. Just like that. But we're going to see, because if it's allowed to go to auction, this person, an individual, is going to make a ton of cash. They're going to make a ton of cash because these are exclusive, private, collector's items that somebody that has a ton of cash is willing to pay for. Private conversations, private songs that haven't been released. by Michael Jackson. It's interesting. Is this going to be your family estate where you have that level of control over the assets and the intellectual property, your name, image, and likeness? We're in the era of name, image, and likeness, but how many people are truly going to be in control from the trustee perspective, from name, image, and likeness, from one generation to the next? First of all, these civic organizations, which are called charitable organizations, which are called the leagues, the national leagues, hockey, football, soccer, any of these leagues, they're civic organizations. Do they own your name, image, and likeness? Because remember, they take the last name and they put it on their logo and they make the money off the jerseys. Sure, there's a collective bargaining agreement. So here we go. Who do you think is the profiteer, the number one profiteer on the name on the jersey? Because you would think the last name is a sponsor. You would think that the additional logos are a sponsor. But when the last name doesn't look at themselves as a sponsor in a deal, and they look at themselves as a employee of the deal, the contract's written that way. When you write yourself as a sponsor, that means you bring equity to the deal. They actually do bring equity to the deal. They can get an insurance policy on themselves, correct? These athletes can get an insurance policy on themselves, correct? They bring equity to the deal. That's Trust Christian in the Vault. That's what we can talk about. That's what we can converse and have that conversation with them and let them know. Well, if you already have the policy out on you and it's not legal advice or financial advice, ladies and gentlemen, we know financial institutions that will pay the premium. And you still don't have to name it after yourself. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listen, and replay. Always appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listen, and replay. Feel free to reach out Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, that is Christian at trustchristian.com. Peace and joy.